All right, I'm recording. I wish I could have a darker area here. Let's see. I'm just sitting down and I'm going to have tonight. Tonight I've decided I'm just going to have a little bit of Scotch whiskey. Yeah, I know. I shouldn't drink. But they say that it has certain benefits, right? Um, and especially small amount. Small amount. I think that in the 16th century they were talking about slowing aging and using whiskey. The Scots. So was it the Scots? And apparently it has some effect on cholesterol and sinuses and congestion and things like that, which I did find to be kind of true because recently I had some tequila, although that's more completely different. I mean, this, you know, Scottish whiskey has no sugar, carbohydrates. So there's that. And I don't know. I also come from a family that tends to have sort of like a happy hour. I'm not sure that my grandfather did, but my grandmother liked to have a cigarette and a glass of whiskey or a drink or whatever. You know, just one, I think it was. They call it happy hour. You might have heard that from Jimmy Buffett. Anyways, so I've also got a white game MVP, I guess. Anyway, it's another one of those nights where everything just kind of blows in my face. Anyways, yeah, it was a crazy stressful day. One of the gals that I work with, she's always she wants to talk about politics and like women's rights and stuff. It's like, look, I don't really want to talk about that stuff, you know? Not really. I mean, why don't you just ask me first instead of like throwing something down my throat with such great opinion? Like, ask me where do I stand on a certain topic, you know? That would be, how do you feel about abortion? You I will tell you. Should you ask? Um, but anyways, aside from that, I wanted to talk today a little bit about art and mood and getting into the mood of art. Also, I wanted to talk about the 7 layers approach. Oh my God, drinking that like water. I was thinking about what this guy said last night on the video. He was talking about um, painters never warm up. Like, TV news anchors, they warm up, like actors warm up, sports people warm up, dancers warm up, musicians warm up. But painters, they don't really warm up. And I really thought that was interesting how he said that, because we end up warming up, on our own painting. And it's kind of, it makes me think again, like, well, maybe I could warm up in a different way instead of just kind of warming up right as I'm creating, the painting. Maybe I could just like warm up on a separate canvas and just kind of enjoy the paint and warm up with the mixtures and the right combination of oil to paint and so on, and then play around a little bit, make some brush strokes, and then approach my current work that I'm working on. I thought that was kind of interesting that he said that. It's a really good observation. And that leads me to my next topic, which is this whole like 7-layered technique of doing portraits, because it's what the masters did. They would do do an underlayer. Like first layer would be like umber, and then they'd bring it up into like the grays, and then the grays and the blues, and then eventually it would look like this black and white, thing. And then they would add color. And by that time, I think I need a lighter. Where's that thing? Where's that lighter? Oh, it's sitting right next to me. Anyway, by that time, what was I saying? Oh yeah. So, anyways, you add color, and but I saw that and I thought, I've got to start doing that, because you really learn. 2 things I learned last night. One was try this 7-layered approach, and the second one was about using a color color matcher. Like, print out your photo, laminate it. So you need a laminating machine. So I think the proper word is color checker. That he wanted to use color checker. So you get the color checker, and then you're constantly checking the you can put a little bit of paint put a little paint next to, what you're working on, and, and double check things. And I think and this guy was saying that um, that's a good way to understand tone, because eventually, or was that the other guy? Hang on. Yeah, I think it was the guy with the color checker said, it's the best way to understand tones, because and how to mix too. And of course, I've been thinking about these things too, and always wanting to improve myself. And so, two things. So you got the color checker, which is a cool way to do it. And then you've also got this, just like painting in one color, or it's like lighter brown and darker brown, and then eventually you let that dry, and then you do another coat. And you're really, I think, in that way, you're really learning. You're seeing the values more. The tonal values, is that the right word? You're seeing the values more, and learning. And I'm sure they teach you that in art school. I had this one guy, friend of mine, that I met in Asia. Make a long story short, I had seen one of his paintings on a wall in a hotel. We ended up becoming friends, Bernard, and he never exactly told me how he did what he did. It was kind of, I think it's like a secret for him or something. But he always said to me, he says, I wish I were you. I wish I could do what you do. And, it makes me think, the guy's blowing smoke, because first of all, I mean, what I do is completely, sure, it might be out of the box in a lot of ways. I didn't learn like a set structure of rules. I mean, there's something to be said for that. That I can think on my own what I want to do. On the other hand, he's trained like classically, and so he makes this very, you know, uh, what's the word? See through. I mean, luminescent. What's the word? It's just so many layers. It's the glazed effect, right? And so, for me, of course, I want what he wants, and he apparently says that he wants what I want, what I have. I want what he has, and he wants what I want have. Not want, have. And it's interesting. I saw him a few different times, like out and about, and he would say, he would say it again, like, I really wish I had what you had. Very strange. Very strange. Good looking guy, great artist, you know. But what exactly do I possess? I mean, except for this, like, learning on my own, like everything the hard way, and struggling every day. Like I struggled with this painting that you see right there. Um, I'm not using any kind of mirrors or any kind of what do you call uh, tracing, or light projector or anything. And so I'm just I'm drawing, And actually, I repainted the painting underneath that, and I changed to a different painting. And what I realized was that I was struggling because I was, in that, and I realized that that's the warm up phase. I was like, I was warming up, and yet I was also changing the painting completely and erasing and painting over, the eyes and the nose. And there's part of you that's kind of going, "Oh my God, that's tragic." You shouldn't paint over things. This is crazy. All that time and effort. It's like gone. In 2 seconds, and then I thought, "Oh God, how am I gonna?" There's this little thought, and it's like a little negative demon on your shoulder. How am I gonna do? Come on. I can't. I can't even get the forehead right and put the eyebrows where they. So I was just like, just go to bed. Forget it. And then another little voice was like, "No, no, you gotta, you gotta get it, man. Enough excuses. And it was a good thing that little voice showed up because I decided to turn some music on and get into it. And yeah, the music helps. Setting the mood, the music helps. But in any case, I was quite pleased. I mean, I am quite pleased. I'm not pleased exactly. I mean, no, I shouldn't say that. With, I mean, yeah, obviously compared to like the glazing layers technique is different. Also, I'm torn because I don't, I don't know what style I want to do in a way because I don't like turpentine. It's dangerous, and I don't. I just basically I like the approach of buttering down your piles of paint, um, and and then mixing those kind of buttered down with some linseed oil or walnut oil, whatever, and then. But I was working with some terps, or the safe kind, whatever. And that was really interesting too. I liked that. I did. I liked that thinning down. I felt like my paintings were more. They seemed more, professional in some way. But I really just kind of go with. I just kind of layer, chunk it on. I just like to do what I want, basically. I don't, you know, and I want to be able to get good at my style. I mean, I want to get good at my style, and then if I decide to do this like classic technique or whatever. However, I think I'll probably work on some of the classic technique in the next coming week as well, and try to understand that and do that and see what happens. But but there is this sense where I want to just kind of enjoy what I do and have it be good, but with the understanding that I know what I'm doing, or I know where as my friend said, make the darks dark, man. Like you got to make those dark. And so uh, I still have a lot to learn with values and and things like that. Um, but I like being out of the box still. But I am ready for a few, I'm ready to understand some deeper things. But yeah, I enjoy it. I enjoy it, and and yeah, I'm going to get into it. This is my this is my warming up, actually. You know, after work, I take a little moment here to debrief, debrief, and it's not like me to have alcohol, but it's such a small amount. I mean, I can't even taste it in there. Mostly lemon juice. So we covered two things today. We covered, this idea of like warming up, and maybe just like mixing. I think a good warm up would be just like mixing your paints. I mean, that's a pretty good warm up in itself. Mixing your paints and maybe using a um, separate canvas just to noodle around or whatever. Anyways, so there we are. And as soon as this thing is done, I'm gonna click this thing off. But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool what that guy said. That is something to take into consideration: the warming up of your painting. Yeah. Yeah, warming up. I also need to have a glass palette. Just something that I'd like to look into making at some point. A glass palette. It's gray usually, right? I think what people use. So anyway, I'm working on this portrait here. I'm gonna keep on working on it tonight. Mm. So, um, I did buy some walnut oil the other day. It's cheap. I'm gonna try to mix it with a little bit of walnut oil tonight. See what happens, and give that a shot. All right. Peace out.